we're here to talk about the AMCS integration with multi-factor authentication. I thought it would be helpful to have a little session just to go over what you're going to see in the coming weeks so you're not surprised. You'll also hear multi-factor authentication referred to as MFA or MyAccess. So we'll try to use the same terminology all the way through. Today I have with me Leah Olson. Leah Olson is AAM's representative for the Designee Management System, so you might have heard her name. And Reggie Zachariah also supporting us today. He is one of our operational IT system managers. And they will be answering your chat questions today. So if you have a question that pops into your head while we're going over these slides, just put it in the chat and we will try to get to that. So what is multi-factor authentication? Multi-factor authentication, which we might refer to as MFA, is a layered approach to securing data and applications. The FAA uses a product called MyAccess to authenticate users via MFA. MyAccess is an important security enhancement that requires a user to verify their identity by providing more than just a username and password. It requires users to provide a combination of two or more of the following: something you know, like a password or a PIN, something you have, like a smart card or security key, and something you are, like a fingerprint or your face. Why is the FAA doing this? To further protect your personal information and that of your applicants. The security of data is very important to us, and MyAccess helps us do that better. So what does this mean for you? It will change the way that you log into AMCS. Additionally, the password requirements are getting easier. So that is a bit of good news. MyAccess requires simply 8 or more characters. The only restrictions are that it cannot contain the username or be a common word, like football or just any recognizable common word. It won't allow that. But you won't have to have the combination like we have right now of 4 different character types, no repeated characters, all those rules that, dare I say, you hate. Some of those are getting a lot easier with this integration with MyAccess. And another bit of good news is you will no longer have to change your password every 90 days. Also, because the FAA is integrating multiple applications with the same MFA product, remember that's called MyAccess, it gets you closer to having a single sign-on. Most of you probably noticed that the Designee Management System, or DMS, already converted their login process. So here is a screenshot of DMS. They integrated with MyAccess in the fall. If you have already registered in MyAccess for use in DMS, then you are all set. You do not need to re-register for use in AMCS. Now, I do recommend that you contact the AMCS technical support team to verify that the email address we have associated with your AMCS account matches what you use to register for MyAccess with DMS. Also remember that your staff members haven't had the opportunity to register in DMS, so they all will need to complete the pre-registration process for AMCS. So if you have not registered for use for MyAccess for either DMS or AMCS, you should do those things now, and that will ensure you're able to transmit your exams without interruption. So how do you pre-register? You can register in MyAccess by using the link that's found in the registration instructions that we posted to the AMCS support page. The AMCS support page can be found at www.faa.gov/go/AMCS. At the bottom of that page, you will see a link for multi-factor authentication registration instructions. That red arrow is pointing it out right there. Once you click on that link, that page that will pull up has specific information related to this release, and it includes a link to pre-register for AMCS and a link to a help guide should you have any questions. So when you go in to pre-register for AMCS, the screen will look like this. Notice at the top that there is a My Registration initiated by the following application. Notice that AMCS is listed there. So that is what that pre-registration screen looks like. You will follow the instructions on that screen. Your next step will be choosing what authenticator you would like to use, and this is that multi-factor authentication part. MyAccess works with either Google Authenticator, Okta Verify, a phone notification, or a security key biometric authenticator. So just follow the steps on the screen. You should be able to get through that process fairly easily. But if you do have questions, I've got some links on the next slide for support. You can find support on the MyAccess page in the registration help section. You can go to MyAccess/help as well, or you can email the help desk at faa.gov. And we will get these help links posted on our support page so that you can find them later. So how will you log into AMCS once we are integrated with MyAccess? So what we've been talking about so far is pre-registration so that you're ready to hit the ground running once we make this release. So there will be a moment in time if you pre-register where you've done your pre-registration process, but you still log into AMCS in the same way. But once we release, and we will obviously notify you when that's happening, right now we are targeting one of the next 2 weeks is what we're hoping to get this release pushed out, either April 17th or April 24th. So how will you log in once we are integrated? After release, the AMCS login screen that you're familiar with will no longer exist. So instead of seeing this screen where you enter your username and password, when you go into AMCS, you'll see a new screen that looks like this. This is the MyAccess login. So once you start seeing this MyAccess login, you will no longer use the AMCS username and password that you are familiar with. Once we release this update, you will start using the account information you pre-registered with in MyAccess. And essentially, your username will be changing to your email address. So once you see this new login screen that's pictured here, that is when you will change over and start using the new account information. You will put in your username, which is your email address, and then you will enter your MyAccess password. Now, the next slide is just an example of the next step. I used for testing Google Authenticator. So this is a screenshot of the Google Authenticator app. So the process will be you will put in your username, you will put in your password. Remember, it's a much simpler password. And then you will get your third step, which is that authenticator. I found the Google Authenticator app to be really easy. It's just on my phone. I pull it up. It has a code. That code is always available. And then I just put it in when I'm prompted to do so after I put in my password. And it moves really quickly. And then once you're logged in, the rest of the functionality will work in the same way. There will be no other changes released at this time. It is just a change to how you log in, with one notable exception. For those of you who have staff members supporting more than one AME, they are seeing one of the biggest updates that's coming from this login change. So instead of that staff member who supports multiple doctors having an account for each of those doctors, they will now only have one account. They will have one MyAccess account. And when they log into AMCS, they will see a list of AMEs that they enter exams for, and then they will select the AME that perform the exam that they are transmitting. So that's a big change for them, and that should make things easier for them as well, because they'll move to having one account, and when they log in, they make a selection of which AME they're transmitting for. So remember, the AMCS support page has lots of helpful information, including the contact information for our support team and those registration instructions that we talked about. And one other note about AMCS technical support. The AMCS technical support team, this is the same team that's been supporting AMCS, well, since it was DOS-based, essentially, but they do have a new email address. You can now email AMCS technical support at amcssupport@faa.gov. Now, for those of you who've been around for a long time, like me, if you have their email address saved, that old one, it still works. You don't have to worry about it, but if you can't ever remember what it is, this new email address should be easier for you. So that's amcssupport@faa.gov. You can also call them at 405-954-3238. They will still continue to help you with all of your AMCS needs. Now, if you have trouble specific to your MyAccess registration process, you can always reach out to AMCS support first. They've been preparing for this release so that they're ready. But there are times when they might need to refer you out to the FAA help desk because they support specifically MyAccess. So if you do need help registering, you can reach out to the FAA help desk, but remember all of your other AMCS technical questions still go to the AMCS technical support team. So AMCS support@faa.gov. So what are the takeaways from this? The main things you need to remember: register in MyAccess prior to release. Now, if you've done that already with DMS, you're good to go. But I would recommend you contact AMCS support prior to release just to make sure that you have the same email address associated in both places. Remember, this gets you closer to single sign-on. After release, you will no longer use your current AMCS username and password. Some of my DMS counterparts provided feedback that that was one of the pain points when they did make the switch, is that people were continuing to use their old account information. So that's a key takeaway. Remember, once we make that switch and we're starting to use that new login page, that is when your username and password will change. Also, don't forget your staff members. Make sure they pre-register so there's not a problem on day one, and that staff members who support multiple AMEs are moving to just one account. And I put that AMCS support email address here as well. So if you missed that earlier, go ahead and jot that down. And that is the last slide. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll see if we can't help you out.
Jana, I think the only question that hasn't been answered is from Steve Horner. He's wanting to know if we'll be offering a class like this for AMEs and their staff via Zoom.
Well, this is it. This is the class. We are recording it, so the plan is to get it posted. FAA has to post all their content on YouTube, so we will get a link to that YouTube posting when it's available so that we can send it out to people who are unable to attend this session.
Jana, one other thing I want to mention just from DMS's experience, if your email that you have in the system is set up when you receive an email that it kicks off another a return email that says, I'll get back with you in such and such time. If you have one of those set up, it will throw off the process of getting registered in MyAccess.
Okay, thank you. She's speaking from experience. Leah already went through this with the DMS process, so keep that in mind.
That one took a few days to figure out. So yes, turn it off if you have that until you get registered.
Looks like we have a question from Don Robinson. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for putting this on. Will the MyAccess page that we log on to be different from the DNS page, or is it all in the same page and we're going to have two options to either go to AMCS or DNS?
The way it works right now, and I've suggested, what I hear you saying is something I suggested to the MyAccess team. What would be nice is if you logged into MyAccess and had a dashboard of every application you had access to. That is not the current functionality. You will still go to, say, amcs.faa.gov or DMS. What are you, Leah? DMS.faa.gov. I think it's the same. You will still go to the application to which you are trying to go. It's just that when you click login on that application, it throws you over to MyAccess to do the authentication before it throws you back. So you'll still have the different application URLs, but your login process will be the same for each of those applications, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Are there any more chat questions, Leah, that we need to get to?
Yes. Do you have any idea when this will post to Zoom?
This is the only Zoom session we're having, but we are recording this session, and then we will work with the Office of Communications to get it posted to YouTube, and then we will have that link available to share.
The next question is, so on April 17th or 24th, I will need to log into AMCS with MyAccess. Is that correct?
So be sure you've pre-registered. And if you've pre-registered, you will be ready on the day we release. At this point in time, we are targeting, yes, either Wednesday, April 17th or Wednesday, April 24th. We will send out messaging in the AMCS broadcast messaging prior to release so that you're not surprised. And then you'll see the messaging that tells you the date when we know it for sure. And then also the next clue is when you click login and it takes you to the different looking login page. Then you will know that that's when you start using your MyAccess information.
What if I don't pre-register? Register later, what will happen?
The question is if you don't pre-register. If you don't pre-register, Reggie, if you could go back to slide 14. Remember, the best practice is to pre-register because you don't want a pilot in your office and you not be able to do that exam and that import that day. But worst case scenario, if you have not pre-registered, your option is to click on the red button on the login page that says don't have an account, sign up. I do not recommend you do that on day one. Please pre-register. I think there were more chat questions.
And does that include the staff members as well? They should pre-register.
Everyone should pre-register. I see a chat question from Ayers that says, when I signed in for DMS, I ended up using Okta Verify. Should I sign up with Google Authenticator? I think as long as you're successfully using Okta, stick with Okta. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Am I missing any other questions in the chat?
There are. I'm trying to make sure that they didn't get answered.
Okay.
But one of them is, does this have to be done by cell phone, the authentication?
I'm thinking. I don't believe so. Reggie, do you know the answer to that question?
Can you please post a link for pre-registering? The chat doesn't work.
Yes, let me find the pre-register link. Just one moment.
I mean, for the authentication, we need the cell phone most likely because we need an app like a Google Authenticator or Okta Verify, and those all work on a cell phone. So without a cell phone, I don't know how we can make it work.
I believe you can do that on like an iPad or something.
If we have something that has an app, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd have to be one or the other.
Hey, Jenna, it's R.S. Stevens. I was just wanted to ask, I try to use the chat here. Will these slides be shared with us? So in case AME or their staff call us, we can kind of walk them through this if they don't call the AMCS help desk first?
Well, I'd always refer people as much as possible to the technical support team, but all of this information is posted to the support page.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, in case you all missed it, I did post the link to pre-register in the chat. If you miss it now, it's on the AMCS support page under the link that says multi-factor authentication, registration instructions, and that is at the bottom of the page. And I noticed, by the way, Dr. O'Brien, who's the division manager for the Aerospace Medical Certification Division, has joined us. Dr. O'Brien, did you want to say anything to the group?
Sure. Thanks, Jana. Sorry I joined you late. I got involved in a project for one of the Deputy Federal Air Surgeon. But at any rate, as you already seen, Jana is really a business systems expert, and I appreciate her joining us today. Thank you much for doing that. This process is really all about making sure that our information, and when I mean our information, I mean all of us, our pilots, you as our AMEs, and the data that we keep in our systems. These are all security processes to help ensure that information stays safe. I think we all read about on an almost daily basis where health information is being compromised by outside entities, that would be outside the United States, with hostile intent. And I would contend that the information that we keep on our systems is very interesting to those adversaries, be they political adversaries or people who are just seeking, ransom money. So I really do appreciate all your work in protecting the information within AMCS as well, just like you would protect the information that you have in your own bank account. It's a little bit of extra work, but trust me, none of us want to see any of our systems get compromised. It will be very problematic for all of us if we ever experience that. So thank you for your cooperation and your time in advance. That's what I got to say. Thanks so much, Jana.
Thanks, Dr. O'Brien. I also posted the MyAccess help links that we saw on one of the slides in the chat as well, and we'll get those posted to AMCS support. So if there are any further questions, please raise your hand. All right. So we're all going to be good to go on day one, right? I hope so. I hope it's a smooth transition. I will tell you, just based on the DMS experience, it does feel like the pre-registration and the change is the scariest part. But really, once you get registered with MyAccess and we make that switch, in the long run, this should be an easier login process for you. And it should be nice to have that shared account information across multiple applications so you're not saving all kinds of different usernames and passwords. So we hope it goes easy for you. If you have any questions, please reach out to AMCS support. They can help you out. They are preparing for this release as well. They'd be happy to make sure the email address you used in your DMS registration is what we have so that on day one, you're ready to hit the ground running. And again, I'll hang out if you have any more questions, but thank you so much for joining us.
Jana, there is a question about the passwords. Will they still be valid for 90 days?
We have been told by the MyAccess team there is no routine requirement to change every 90 days. Yay! See, that's another benefit. That's so exciting. So you should not have to change your password every 90 days. Hi, Dr. Simon.
I got a quick question. I just logged into AMCS. They asked me to change my password. I changed it. And then I went to DMS and it's asking for all the new information because I already had an account. So what do I do about AMCS?
Well, so for right now, AMCS will still use your pre-existing account. You've probably had the username for a really long time and then the password that changes every 90 days. And that right now is still separate from whatever you have for DMS.
But if I'm into DMS in the future, we'll use the DMS login for AMCS?
Do you know if you've done the pre-registration process for DMS? Registered for MyAccess for use with DMS. That's the key. If you've done that.
I can log into DMS.
Okay. And when you log into DMS, does it come up with the screen that we showed earlier? Reggie, could you share that screen one more time?
Well, I used the Okla verify.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So now on the day after we release in AMCS, at that point, when the AMCS screen looks like the login that we're sharing here, it's going to look just like the login for DMS. At that point, then they will be the same account information.
Okay, gotcha.
And if they can get into DMS now, they've set up the MyAccess account already.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Leah. That was helpful. I can't keep track of DMS, so I appreciate. That's why I had you join me. I'm so thankful you're here. Thanks for doing that.
Now, yes. do our staff have to do the same thing? Do they have to use Okta Verify and all that as well?
Yes, they will for their AMCS use.
Okay, we'll have her take a look at the video.
Okay, good deal.
So we don't have Okla, and I just downloaded the Google Authenticator, and it's asking me for an account and a name and a service key. What's that all about?
So you might, without seeing your screen, it's hard for me to help you right here, but the Google Authenticator is just part of the process. So you would want to start with the screen right here that we're showing. Actually, if you could go up to the pre-register screen, Reggie.
Which slide is it? Which slide
It's
is
one.
it?
I think it's one more, maybe two, maybe three, actually.
Oh, this one. Okay.
Yeah, this one. So you want to start with the registration process with MyAccess. So you start, basically what you're doing here is creating a MyAccess account. Now, if you've already done this for DMS, you're set. But if you haven't done this yet for DMS, you're creating a MyAccess account. And then the secondary step of creating the MyAccess account is setting up your authenticator like Google or Okta. And then each of those are going to have different requirements for verifying who you are. And then once they verify who you are, then you establish that MyAccess account. So I don't necessarily know the intricacies of each authenticator, but that is the basic high-level overview of what you're doing. So start with MyAccess. It'll toss you to one of the authenticators before you come back and establish that account.
So will we get an account name and a service key?
Again, I'm not exactly sure on each authenticator how that works. And if it's not making sense, this is a situation in which I would recommend you reach out to the FAA help desk if that screen is not making sense to you, because once you establish that MyAccess account, then you'll be good to come back to AMCS. Leah, did you want to add something?
No, that's
okay.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes. Oh, please do.
Yeah. So once you go to this screen where you say set up the authenticator, that will give you the key for MyOcta.
Thank you.
Looks like we still have some chats. So
we're getting some questions for the internationals about they don't have a social security number or a government ID. You can use a passport, a driver's license, any kind of government ID that you would have. Doesn't have to be a U.S. government ID.
So I think if you don't have a social, you're using something else. Social is one of the options. It's not the only option, is what I remember from setting up my authenticator. Leah, does that track with what you heard as well when you're?
Yes, I believe that's when they're going to submit the ID instead.
Yes, that's what I recall as well. Okay, it looks like we got to all the chat questions. Any last takers? Hands raised, chatting? What you got? Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and conclude since that seems to be the end of the questions. Please reach out to AMCS support at FAA.gov if you have any further questions, and we will get some of the help information posted to the support page in addition to what's already there. And we're hoping for a really easy day one start. So hopefully this prepared you, and just give us an email if you have any further questions. Thanks so much.